What's going on, guys? It is a Tuesday night. Welcome to News 6 Weather Live at 9:30. I'm meteorologist Jonathan Kegges. Thanks so much for taking some time out of your day to hang out with me as we break down what's going on in the weather department tonight. And it's a much quieter night across the Florida Peninsula. But we have a lot to talk about this evening because if you keep up with the show, and I hope that you do, you know that on Tuesday, the Climate Prediction Center kind of comes out with their long range thinking on the tropical front. And it really matches what we've been talking about leading up to the last couple of weeks. So we are going to talk about some of the science behind why that dreaded switch in the tropics is likely going to turn on for the first time. Of course, we've had storms so far this season, but I'm talking about the flurry of activity that looks like it's coming. So we're going to break down some of the science behind that through the course of the video. We're going to talk about that first because that's going to be the theme of this, and then we're going to break down the Florida forecast. Scattered storms on the docket for tomorrow, just like today. Certainly, the rain wasn't everywhere. We had some scattered downpours mainly along the coast. We had some around Daytona Beach, across the Space Coast in Volusia County. We had some rain through Flagler County today, and then trying to push down the I-4 corridor as expected. Of course, it didn't rain everywhere. It didn't say it was going to rain everywhere. I think rain chances even go down a little bit tomorrow. So I have a lot of people asking for the forecast for tomorrow. The rain chances are even lower if you have plans to do anything tomorrow. So again, not zero. I think there will be downpours around, but I think the rain chances go down even further. Taking a live look tonight in Ponce Inlet, and then also in the Florida Panhandle this evening. The live views courtesy of our friends at WeatherStem. So we're going to start on the tropical front tonight, and then we're going to kind of work in reverse this evening. And we're going to start with the red area, and then we're going to build into the long range forecast. So last night we were talking that this was orange, the medium shot for development, but now we have a high chance for development, and this was to be expected. Likely going to see development as this gets closer to the Caribbean islands. So the opportunity for this to be our next tropical depression is pretty high, and that could come as early as mid to late this work week. So over the next couple of days, and by Friday, certainly by the weekend, we'll likely see something trying to get going and materialize. Right now, it is a discombobulated mess out in the eastern Atlantic west of the Cabo Verde Islands. So I want to show you a couple of things here. And the big thing that I want to show you to kind of calm any kind of fears, because I know there's still a lot of stuff out there. Will this hit? Will this come in? We're going to look at the atmospheric moisture. Meteorologically, this is precipitable water. However, this tells a huge story. So that's why I want to track this using this parameter. So that blue highlight, that blue circle that I have on the screen, as we get right into it tonight, is going to have all of the opportunity, or is going to have the area, is our tropical wave, is what I'm trying to say. You'll notice the spin that it gets, though, as we get to the weekend and get into early next week. Now we're way out there. Sunday, September 14th. We have a tropical system. That is no doubt, at least according to the European model right here. That is a well-defined tropical system sliding north of the Caribbean. Don't think it's coming here because we are going to have a gigantic, massive taste of fall for our friends, really, maybe from the Georgia-Florida line, points north. I mean, it is going to be crisp. Minnesota, we're talking highs in the 50s. But this nice big dip in the jet stream, and you can see the different colors here, the yellows, all of this. Look at the scale up here. That is the lower moisture content. That is a big dip in the jet stream, and that should send this guy, well, girl, packing right up, kind of following a track very, very similar to Hurricane Aaron. So I am optimistic that Aaron is not going to come to the United States because we have a gigantic trough of low pressure right there, and that's going to push it way out. I was a little crazy on the telestration there, but you get my point. That is what is going to help keep the United States blocked when it comes to anything trying to connect from Africa right now that stays north of the Caribbean, and that's the main key. We like the trough whenever it's going to be north of the Caribbean. Development chances here, this is going to be the European ensemble look, and where you see that the colors, that's where the it shows the percentage of how many ensemble members are online. And remember, the ensemble members there's different initial conditions put into the model because we don't have a lot of good data because it's in the middle of the ocean. It's not really formed yet. So we have all of that. Again, 40% of the models as it drifts next Sunday north of the Caribbean are online for tropical development. Again, we'll likely see something form in this general area and then hightail it likely in between Bermuda and the United States. So this one, I mean, always watching for some shenanigans in play. If something gets hung up or it misses its ride out, this one should stay out to sea. I want to show you something cool here. It's going to take the same kind of track as Aaron, and we still have that cooler water. So notice here where it's all the orange kind of turns to blue and green. That temperature anomaly where it turns, again, the orange is the warmer than normal temperatures and the sea surface temperature. The blue and the green way below normal. All of that is Aaron's path. It churned up that cooler water. So hurricanes do serve a purpose. That's why they're there. It's to keep the earth in equilibrium. We don't like whenever they hit things. Of course, that's whenever it's bad, but they're supposed to transport heat north and cooler air down and keep things nice and uniform. And it cooled the water for a short time anyway, in between the Bahamas, Turks and Caicos, United States, and Bermuda, right through there. It's still unfortunately juiced in the Gulf. And that is what we don't want because that's kind of the season that we are heading into over the next couple of weeks as we get back into Central America gyre season. We get oftentimes the things spit out. So I wanted to talk about the long range again. Climate Prediction Center comes out with these every Tuesday. So I like to show you what their thoughts are. We have long talked about that it looked like because of the La Nina coming into play again and the Madden-Julian oscillation passage late September, that it was going to be the third week of September through the third week of October that we have our tropical activity, the meat and potatoes of hurricane season likely happening into that 4 to 5 week window, very similar to what we saw last year. So here we go. 2 areas on the board, September 10th through the 16th, peach shaded color. It's a greater than 20% shot. It's a low shot right now. Again, that's pretty far out into the future, but could have a trailing wave rolling off of Africa, working into the central Atlantic. And then there also could be something trying to form near the Yucatan and then maybe trying to lift up to the north or east Gulf Coast. Both of those are low probability happenings at the moment. There's some kind of signal, and I'll show you that signal. I want to take you to the other weather computer. This is going to be on tropicaltidbits.com. And the GFS ensembles, remember we just said the ensembles, their goal is to help to sniff out possible solutions when we don't have the full story or the full picture. And Kimberly asked a fantastic question, and we are going to get into that right after this. This is the method to my madness here, so I'm going to show you that in just 1 second. So that is a great question, Kimberly. Notice what happens here. This will start early. These are the ensembles with the wave that I just showed you out near Africa. So all of the GFS ensembles turn the next depression or storm. If it gets a name, it's Gabrielle. I never like to name them before they actually get a name. Could have something else pop up. Could have the wind shear take over and it never gets going. So you'll never see me or hear me name a storm before the Hurricane Center does before it becomes official. But the next named storm is Gabrielle. Then notice we get this kind of flare up and we're looking for the yellows and the oranges. That's the standard deviation increase, and where you see those numbers and the little teeny tiny numbers are the pressure related to that ensemble member. So that is the secondary part that I showed you. And then there comes that third red area. Now, going forward, let's get to the next part. Let me advance this. Higher probabilities. And this is the third week of September. So it's matching up with everything. We are adding more instability to the Atlantic. We had stability issues all season. I mean, that's a good thing. But as we get into fall, we naturally cool the upper levels of the atmosphere. The water stays very warm. That is one way to increase instability. We have La Nina coming into play. And then we also have the passage of the Madden Julian oscillation. It's this kind of convective cluster that goes around the globe every 30 to 60 days, and it can help to force up thunderstorms given the right environment, which it also helps to create. We can get more thunderstorms to roll through. So here we go. We're looking at the green. This is the rising motion anomaly. So this is going to be for September 16th, mid-September. So we do have a little bit of rising motion anomaly showing back up into the Atlantic. And then we're full-fledged go as we get towards the third week. It normally takes a little bit of time after that passage to get things a little juiced. So really, as we get to that third, fourth week of September and into October, we're likely going to have that. And again, could fuel another wave coming off of Africa. If we keep that trough there, that's great news. It's going to help to deflect things. But if that trough is there and we start to get a very active gyre, that's what we've had over the last couple of years where it has been backloaded. I don't know that we have as bad of a backloaded season as we did last year, Elizabeth. Last year was crazy. I think we had a record number of storms. I think post September 26th, I think we had 8 named storms, I want to say. That number might be off slightly, but there were a lot of storms. We all know that, and they were significant ones. So hopefully it's not that bad, but indications are that we are going to see that uptick, and likely after possibly Gabrielle, that's whenever the real kickstart, unfortunately, begins. Let's just hope they all stay fish storms. All righty, guys. A lot of questions about the forecast. We're going to get into that in just 1 second. I'm way over my time. I have to get my break in. I'll see you guys in 3 minutes. Alrighty, guys, welcome back. Thanks so much for sticking with me. Hey, do me a favor. Post in the comments where you're tuning in from. If you have any questions, of course, post them as well. Went a little bit of overtime, so I'm going to kind of rapid fire the Florida forecast, talk about why it's so windy out there as well. I also have a question for you. We're thinking of getting another stream going, a weather stream like this, going at a different time of the day in addition to 9:30. So I have a question for you. What day part, like 9:30 in the morning, 10 in the morning, 8 in the morning, would it be most beneficial to you? So big question. It'll help me out. It'll help us at News 6 out a lot to better help you. So please do me a favor, post in the comments when you would like to see another stream like this on News 6 Plus, on the News 6 YouTube, at a different time of the day. What time do you think would be best for you and your daily plan? So do me a favor, post that in the comments. For me. All right, so getting to the Florida portion of the forecast, we had this pesky low. Again, it is non-tropical in nature. It's kind of spinning right there off our coast, and you see those white lines. These white lines are the wind direction. That's why we had downpours today along the coast, especially. There's some drier air through the Florida peninsula, and that's why they kind of gobbled up the further west they did on the gobbled up those downpours the further west they got inland, away from the coast. But same kind of deal again. We have downpours kind of lurking right off of the Florida coast because we have that scattered shower activity in the mix, because you see that swirl there. That's our area of low pressure. So that is why we have the wind as well. Now that's going to eventually lift north, so our wind is gradually going to relax over the next couple of days as it lifts to the north. Thank you guys for posting the times. That is helpful. We have a lot of people on the stream right now. So if you guys, if you're looking for weather information in the morning, that seems to be the big deal. What time in the morning? I know things are a little busy, 6, 7 o'clock in the morning. Of course, we have News 6 in the morning going on, so you have that information. But what time during the morning would best help you? Again, we're here for you guys to make sure you're getting the best weather information as well. So there's the reason for the breeze. Now, here's the deal too. Because of that breeze, this is kind of weird. It's a coastal flood advisory, but it's still impacting inland areas. So this is kind of one of the weirder ones that we get, and it's during the high tide cycles. Because of the breeze that Melissa was kind of alluding to again today, out of the north and east, number one, on the coast, you see from Palm Valley through St. Augustine, through St. Johns County, into Flagler County, that's where we have the breeze pushing against the coast. So as we have high tide, the wind forces the breeze, forces the waves inland a little bit, and that's where we get a little bit of minor coastal flooding. It's nothing crazy, at least at this go around. We also, the St. Johns is a very weird river. It's a very slow flowing river for one. It's a very lazy river, and it flows from south to north, drains in the Atlantic. When you have these gusty northeast winds pushing back on a southward flowing or a northward flowing river, it causes the water to back up a little bit and it rises. So all of the St. Johns River, at least from Lake George north, and then the tributaries, those could come up a little bit. It's not because of the rain, it's because of the breeze kind of acting as almost like a mini storm surge, not like a hurricane, but it's kind of similar to that, where high tide, it's enhanced a little bit. So here's the deal for tomorrow. Sliding into tomorrow afternoon, again, you see a lot of those downpours try to back off to the east, and then we'll just look for a few stray downpours. So there's 11 o'clock in the morning. Let me zoom closer to Central Florida. Again, there are a few downpours. If you have plans at the parks, it's good. I would go. Again, you might need to duck in for a little bit, but any downpour that's out there is quick hitting. Again, it's not going to be a huge deal tomorrow. Don't think there's a lot of lightning with these. There's 2 o'clock. A few more scattered downpours try to fire up later on in the evening along the I-4 corridor. It's nothing too crazy. I think the model is even oversold a little bit. I do think the bigger junk is happening in South Florida, closer to West Palm, Fort Lauderdale, Miami. That's 7 o'clock. We have the westerly wind, And that is something, if I have anybody tuning in from South Florida, that's something we haven't had much of this year. A West Coast sea breeze kind of dominant day, pushing everything from west to east. That's why we've been in a drought. We'll take a look at that drought monitor on Thursday as we are still in a drought, and a pretty big one across parts of South Florida. Alrighty, guys, I have to get another break in. When we come back, we'll have just a couple of minutes for questions. Do me a favor, post in the comments if you're watching on clickorlando.com or on News 6 Plus. Where you're tuning in from. A lot of people dial up YouTube on their phone and then post the questions in there so I can bring them over. Or we actually do have a chat box on clickorlando.com. If you got that push alert that came to your phone about 20 minutes ago, 30 minutes ago. But anyway, if you're watching on YouTube, do me a favor, post in the comments, taking a survey here so we can better serve you guys good weather information. When would you guys want to see another stream very similar to this? Live, it looks like in the morning is the big winner, but I'd like to know what kind of where I know you guys are busy and juggling a lot of things, but when would you find a live stream like this helpful? 8 in the morning, 8:30, 9, 9:30. We have a lot of votes for 10 o'clock, 10:30, 11, maybe 1 in the afternoon. So do me a favor, if you would, please post that in the comments. I have to take a short break. We'll be back in 3 minutes, and I will have about 2 minutes. I'll have about 2 minutes to answer a couple of questions. Went over, but I wanted to give you guys all that information. Thanks for bearing with me tonight. Catch you in 3 minutes. Alrighty, guys, welcome back. Of a lot of good questions in the chat. Kimberly mentions that it has been drier today. Dew points checking in the 70s. It has felt a little bit better. You can thank the north wind for that. Where are my people in the Panhandle? Holy cow! Jacksonville, Pensacola, Tallahassee. Now, dew points in the low to mid 60s would be considered pretty humid in the north. But my gosh, coming out of summer in Florida, when we have dew points on a daily basis in the low, mid to even upper 70s, when we get into the 60s, it is feeling nice. It is great. Holy cow. A nice little break there thanks to that northerly wind. Jody and Elizabeth were alluding to this question here. What would it be like on the backside of hurricane season comes category 3 or higher? So that's going to be impossible to know until we get a storm to develop. However, the one byproduct of having a quiet season, sometimes we like to have a lot of storms out there to not hit land. Want to be clear, not hit land, but to keep things churned up, to keep up well the cooler water. This is the tropical cyclone heat potential, as it's called, or the tropical fuel. And anywhere you see it yellow, orange, and certainly red or rust, that is where we have the big time fuel. So again, we haven't had anything out in the Western Caribbean or in the Gulf. We did have something to the Gulf Stream again that is deeply warm water, and that's what this map shows. It's not just the sea surface temperatures, which I showed you earlier. Losing my voice. Oh boy, that's gonna be crazy for 10 o'clock. You want to see some happenings? Tune in at 10. We'll get through it. But this is how deep the warm water goes, so that when a hurricane or tropical storm is over water, it churns up cooler water that isn't all that cool. So while I can't speak to what the categories may be, because there's a lot of things that go into that, and we don't have any storm out there, thankfully, there's a lot of fuel. So there's a lot of potential to get these things strong if they were to happen in the Western Caribbean or the Gulf or near the Gulf Stream. Alrighty, guys, that's about all the time I have tonight. Benny, thanks so much for being here. Savannah, Georgia, we had significant damage from Storm Helene that passed to our west. Helene was a super mean storm. One of the worst on record. Inland flooding. We always talk about that. I have people watching from inland areas that the threats with hurricanes don't end at the coast. So that's always important to know. And Benny, unfortunately, you know that all too well. Hopefully, I'm keeping my fingers crossed that we get a gigantic, ginormous break across the lower 48 and nothing comes in our direction. We'll be watching closely, of course. All right, we're going to have more on the local forecast coming up. News 6 at 10. That's on News 6 Plus. If you're watching on News 6 Plus, just park it right here. We'll be on in a couple of minutes. If you are on the News 6 YouTube page, you can stay on the News 6 YouTube page. It'll be a different feed, but you can find us there again, News 6 at 10, starting in just about 3 minutes. Thanks a ton for being here, guys. I really appreciate you taking the time out of your busy day to just kind of hang out and shoot the breeze about the weather. Have a great night, guys. Sleep tight. We'll catch you tomorrow, 9:30. Better yet, how about a couple of minutes? News 6 at 10. We'll see you then.